Soup! Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. Speaking of RPG horror stories, I'm thinking of doing more RPG horror stories where I have my buddies Mary and Micah join me to read some along. Speaking of RPG horror stories, I still want to do more collaborations with Mary and Micah and get them both join up with some RPG horror stories together. I feel like that'd be super fun. Like find some really crazy, bombastic, long RPG horror stories and just break them down together and just talk about what's going on in there. Outside, I'm just doing something fun with my friends and covering RPG horror stories, which I also enjoy. It just would be really nice and wholesome to just do something with my buddies again. Anyway, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. The time DM accused me of planning an exploit for asking for a spell. Alright folks, buckle up because this one's a doozy. I've been lurking here for a while and I never thought I'd have a story to share. But here we are. This happened in a campaign I'm currently in. Well, was in after this train wreck. So our DM, who we'll call Control Carl, sent us a message saying, "Last chance to let me know if you want to buy specific items for tomorrow's session." Seems normal enough, right? A little housekeeping before we dive into the adventure. Now, I've been planning for my character's next big move. I'm playing a character who's all about clever utility spells, and I realized I needed Galdur's Speedy Courier to make it happen. It's a niche, but it fits my character's vibe perfectly. So I reply, I absolutely need a scroll of Galdur's Speedy Courier. Cue the drama. The second result when you search for that spell is an exploit, so no. Y'all, I was baffled. Like I get being cautious about broken stuff, but this isn't some wish for infinite wishes homebrew nonsense. It's a real rules as written spell. So try to keep it cool and explain that I'd use it responsibly. Something like, trust me, I use it in a balanced way. But apparently that was too much for Carl because he came back with, "You already called me a special salute DM, so you don't have any leverage. I'm not giving it to you." Yeah, he said that. Whoa, I feel like we need a lot of context. First of all, I need to look up this spell. 4th level spell. You summon a small air elemental to a spot within range. The air elemental is formless, nearly transparent, immune to all damage, and cannot interact with other creatures or objects. It carries an open, empty chest whose interior dimension are 3 feet on each side. While the spell lasts, you can deposit as many items inside the chest at will. You can then name a living creature you have met and seen at least once before, or any creature for which you possess a body part, a lock of hair, clipping of a nail, or similar portion of the creature's body. Disgusting. As soon as the lid of the chest is closed, the elemental in the chest disappear, then reappear adjacent to the target creature. If the target creature is on another plane, or if it's proofed against magical detection location, the contents of the chest reappear on the ground at your feet. The target creature is made aware of the chest contents before it chooses whether or not to open it, and knows how much of the spell duration remains in which it can retrieve them. No other creature can open the chest and retrieve its contents. When the spell expires, or when all contents of the chest have been removed, the elemental in the chest disappear. The elemental also disappears if the target creature orders it to return the items to you. When the elemental disappears, any item not taken from the chest reappear on the ground at your feet. I think I understand the exploit, and feel free to let me know in comments if I got it completely wrong, but from my understanding is you send the elemental to somebody else, and the exploit is they take the item from the elemental and then stick something back into the elemental so it can be returned back to you, kinda. So it's like a two-way instead of a one-way. I think with the way the spell is described is that you send the item to the character, and if they take if they receive the items, then that's the end of the spell and the elemental just disappears basically. Is that what it is? Just like a two-way transfer system? Is that what it is? I don't know. Is that the exploit? Am I getting it correctly? I'm gonna assume it's just that. It's basically like turn a one-way delivery into a two-way delivery. I mean, I think the only solution is if you just want to have the other person send something back to you, they just use a spell scroll themselves too. They get a spell scroll, they use it, and then they deliver stuff to you. For context, no one has called him a saluting DM, at least not to his face. The vibe has been a little tense in the group lately because Carl has a habit of shooting down anything he doesn't like or understands. But calling him names? Nah, no one has done that. If anything, we've been walking on eggshells because he takes everything as a personal attack. So here I am, staring at the message, and I realize there's no way to salvage this. Try to politely reason with him, but it was clear he was digging his heels in. Not gonna lie, I was this close to just logging off and never coming back. The next session was awkward AF, and you bet I didn't get my scroll. I ended up leaving the campaign not long after because the whole thing made it clear that Carl wasn't interested in collaboration. He wanted control, not creativity. Anyway, thanks for reading my rant. If anyone has tips on finding a group where the DM doesn't think the idea of Galdur's Speedy Courier is a war crime, let me know. Okay, well, here are my 2 cents. Either Carl maybe had some sort of experience where he had a bunch of players that basically exploit spells or exploit the writing. Like whenever somebody does like, you know, create or destroy water. I create, destroy water inside your lungs. The spell doesn't specifically specify if I can or cannot do that. Even though it doesn't really make sense for it to do that whatsoever. Like you make it into space, drowning somebody. In fact, there's actually homebrew spells about drowning if you really want to drown somebody with water. But in this situation, it feels like maybe Carl's being a little bit touchy, a little bit uneasy, a little bit not willing to budge. I get some DMs probably not gonna budge on some things, you know. A no is a no, and that's completely fine. But if the situation follows that the player is not going to be doing some sort of a weird exploit on it and just wants to be able to quickly deliver goods from one player to the other at like a moment's notice and stuff, I don't think that's a bad idea. Though at the same time, I feel like definitely there could be a middle ground range between Carl and OP, but there's just something going on with there. If the DM says no, that's a no, and that should be, I think, respected, because at some point DMs need to say no to some stuff because they're running a game. If they're not comfortable with a specific thing or exploit or a feature being used in a weird way, then a no is a no. But if Carl's the kind of guy that shuts down a lot of regular things or basic things just because he thinks of them as an exploit or some sort of way to ruin the game, if that's a regular thing that's happening all the time and it's happening to everybody, not just OP, then yeah, I feel like that's definitely 100% a problem. Either way, we do have a second story from the same OP about same DM Carl. Apparently there's more things going on, more drama in the game. So let's get to the next horror story for today. Control Carl, a compilation of everything wrong with that campaign. So after my last post, a bunch of people were saying I overreacted about the whole spell situation. And hey, fair enough, maybe you don't think banning a niche utility spell is a hill to die on. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. Since people wanted context, there's a greater hits compilation of Carl's worst moments. Buckle up, because this is painful. You're a guy IRL, so no female characters. It generally doesn't matter whatever you want to play, just as long as you're having fun. Like me, I am a tiefling. I am a guy. But also have a drow vampire blood hunter that I really enjoy playing called Selena, not Gomez. But she's super fun to play as because she's all mysterious and tricksy and stuff, and it's just really fun. I'm a guy, I'm a tiefling, but I'm not tiefling IRL. Am I still allowed to play as a tiefling? Hell yeah, I am. I'm allowed to be a tiefling whenever I want to be. But also if I want to play as a cat girl or really any female character in any video game or TTRPG, I am allowed to do whatever I want. It's my time and I choose how I want to spend it. Besides, there's nothing wrong with making a character that doesn't match you for you. In fact, I feel like it's actually even more interesting. I'm not a Lokotha IRL, but I love playing as Nyazu and being a Lokotha cleric, and I could do this little silly voice and be a fishman and help my friends. Because at the end of the day, it's all fantasy and fun. There's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, I'm going off tangent. Let's see what the point for Carl is. Let's start with the all-timer. In session 0, I mentioned I want to play a female character. Nothing weird, just a fun role-playing challenge. Carl immediately shuts it down with, "You're a dude, so you have to play dude." Ask why, he says it would be immersion breaking. I remind him we're playing a fantasy game where I can be a lizard man, but somehow me playing a woman is too unrealistic. He doubles down and says, "It will make things weird," but refuses to elaborate. Meanwhile, another player, who happened to be a woman IRL, was allowed to play a male PC, no questions asked. Well, I think we found some double standards. So suddenly your dude bro can't play a female character, but a girl at your table can play a male character just fine? Huh, I see how it is, Carl. The custom system disaster. We technically started this campaign in Carl's homebrew system. He hyped it up like it was the next D&D 5e, spent literal months writing lore and mechanics, and then session 1 starts, and it's unplayable. Combat was a mess of weird calculations that didn't work. Some classes had 0 abilities until level 3, meaning you were just a stat block for half the game. His balanced spell system made magic straight up useless. The entire table is struggling, and it takes him 5 sessions to admit it's broken. So what does he do? Scraps the entire thing and forces us to restart in 5e. But only after we spent hours making characters in his janky system. Please tell me he let you just rebuild your characters with a current level in 5e. He probably didn't let you build your characters in 5e, you just had to start from the very scratch, didn't you? No rolls, you just die. One of our players, we'll call him Greg, had a super well thought out character. Interesting backstory, cool roleplay moments, the whole package. One session in the middle of a fight, Carl just says, "Okay, Greg, your character instantly dies." No rolls, no saving throws, no chance to react. Just poof, dead. Greg is understandably confused and asks why. Carl's response, "The enemy had a spell that instantly kills people. That's just how it works." What? Just instantly kills? Is a power word kill or disintegrate? What level are you guys playing at this? Are you playing a low level campaign and suddenly enemies just have a high level spell for no reason? Why is Carl like this, dude? We're pressing for details. Apparently the spell just instantly deletes a character from existence. No counterplay, no telegraphing, no warning. Just don't exist anymore. Greg tries to argue, but Carl just says, "Look, something bad happened." Greg quit that night. Wait. What? You can't just be like, "Hey, yeah, something bad just happened. I'm just gonna leave and quit immediately." Just running away. Probably what happened is Greg ran something stupid. Didn't realize it was stupid until the very last moment when players pointed out it's stupid, couldn't handle the fact that it was stupid, couldn't take accountability for their own stupid decision, and basically instead of just retconning the whole thing, they said, "Today's a bad night," and just ran away from the session. Why? Political drama, but make it Marvel. At one point, Carl decided we needed a serious, morally gray political arc, which sounded cool in theory, but what we got was Game of Thrones written by a 12-year-old who only watches Marvel movies. We were given exactly zero agency in this conflict. Every choice was made funneled into the same outcome. The villain was so cartoonishly evil that they might as well have had a neon sign that said "bad guy." In the final battle, a little skybeam appeared. We had to stop the villain from activating the ancient artifact, which we had no idea existed until that session. The villain then monologued for 10 minutes straight while we just stood there. We eventually beat them in a completely scripted fight, and Carl had the gall to say, "That was a really deep storyline." The legendary weapon that lasted one session. The only reason we suffered through that entire political arc was to get our hands on a legendary weapon. Carl had this up for months. "This will be a game-changing," he said. We finally get it, test it out, and it's actually really cool. Then literally the next session, Carl has an NPC steal it from us because he decided it was too strong. No rolls, no checks, just hand-waved out of our inventory. We tried to get it back and Carl straight up refused. We called him out and he said, "I just think it's more fun this way." Carl's the kind of guy that puts a carrot on the stick, and as soon as somebody just catches a bite of the carrot, they just take the carrot away immediately and say, "No carrots for anybody. No fun allowed. We can't have good things. It's better when you guys don't have your rewards or anything." I could get it, the weapon is imbalanced and stuff, but like, don't give your players unbalanced, overpowered stuff if you don't want them to keep it. Don't just give it to them and then take it away. Don't just bait and switch them. I can't believe I'm saying it, but don't rug pull them this way, dude. It's not fun when you do that. If you're worried about balance, then talk to the players and say, "Hey, maybe we can rebalance some things." But you know what? I feel like this is not Carl's way. Carl's way is his way or the highway. Actually, not even the highway. It's not a highway at all. It's a dirt track. It's either Carl's way or the dirt track. Flying enemies, but no bows allowed. Carl had a weird obsession with flying enemies. Like, we fought dragons, flying demons, harpies, pretty much anything with wings we had to fight. The problem? Almost none of our party had a way to hit flying enemies. We weren't a spell-heavy group and relied mostly on melee, so naturally we tried to buy bows, crossbows, anything to handle the problem. Carl says no. His reasoning, "I don't want you guys to just cheese fights." So let me get this straight. You can throw nothing but flying enemies at us, but the second we try to counter that, suddenly it's not fun? How is this cheesing? How is this cheesing? If you have an enemy that's flying up in the sky and you don't have spells to lob at them because the only thing you have is a great sword in hand and you're used to just smiting enemies up close, of course you're gonna buy a longbow or a crossbow or javelins or anything that gives you a little bit of range and start shooting things down from afar because they can't physically be there. Or if you can't have spells that pull enemies closer, you're gonna find an alternative solution, which is range weapons. But apparently to Carl, using range weapons on flying enemies that are too far away for his combatants is cheesing. That's considered cheesing for him. Players making a reasonable decision is considered cheesy tactic. This man is insane. Leveling? What's that? Played for literal months without leveling up. We were stuck at level 5 for so long that we started joking about it in character. We went through an entire arc without a single level. Then out of nowhere, Carl suddenly lets us level up 6 times in 2 sessions. We go from level 5 to level 11, practically overnight. No build up, no narrative reason, just, "Oh yeah, you're level 11 now." Let me ask why, he just said, "I realized I forgot to give you guys levels before." At this point, I don't know why I stayed in this campaign as long as I did. Maybe I was holding out hope that it would just get better. But I'm sorry, but that is so funny. That is absolutely freaking hilarious. You know, here's what I was thinking, like Carl is completely incompetent, but now it confirms Carl is indeed incompetent, but in a really funny way. Imagine playing for like whole 3 arcs, so many months spent without leveling up out of nowhere, and then Carl has the gall to come out of nowhere and say, oh yeah, you guys should have leveled up for a while now, I just forgot to keep track of it, here's extra 6 levels. Carl is a comedian. This is comical. It's awful. It's genuinely terrible. Like seriously, all the other stuff that Carl has done is awful. But this part has genuinely made me laugh. Because I can't get mad at this. What's the point of getting mad at it? Clearly, Carl messed up. They made her stupid. They made her dumb. But at least they try to rectify it by giving people just 6 levels out of nowhere. Oh my god, dude. Carl is a beautiful, incredible, hilarious disaster. I think I know why he decided to stay in the campaign, because Carl is a mystery. You never know. He's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get with a single bite. No bows for flying enemies. Interesting. No level up for like months until finally suddenly he's just remembered it. A spell that just instantly deletes you, and then when you asked why, DM just runs away. He's like a mystery. He's like a jack in the box, you know. Bonus levels out of nowhere. Oh, Carl. After the spell scroll incident, I realized Carl was never going to change. Anyway, thanks for letting me rant again. If you ever played Under the Control, Carl, you have my deepest condolences. I am so happy you gave us the context for it. Honestly, I didn't expect myself to just be laughing at the absurdity of it. But let me get serious for a little bit. Carl is a disaster, and the ruling about this spell, at first I thought could have been reasonable because it's okay if some DMs are not okay with some stuff, but in this situation I feel like there's bigger problems with Carl than just a single spell exploit. There's a whole issue on Carl's end that needs to be fixed up before they can even start considering anything regarding spells or like saying no to some spells. There's nothing wrong with saying no to some spells. I know some games just outright just say, hey, I don't want to have counterspell because I don't want to have a whole counterspell-a-thon with everybody just grabbing counterspell and counterspelling each other, or the whole thing with silvery barbs where everybody's constantly silvery barbsing each other. I'm perfectly okay with it because it's a great way for players just to blow off the mana so they can't use it in later part of the combat. I'm okay with it personally because I have good balance for it and I can just add more things for them to fight, so it makes sense to have so many things that just silvery barbs all the time. I mean, listen, if that's your bread and butter, that's your bread and butter. I'm not gonna stop you from using silvery barbs. Go for it, champ, do it. It's your reaction. But Carl clearly has a lot more issues going on than just a singular spell, and I hope at some point Carl realizes it. I doubt it. I really doubt it. I feel like Carl's the kind of guy, he's like a dwarf, stuck in his ways, stubborn. I imagine Carl as a stout dwarf that is so stubborn, he's as stubborn as a mountain. He will never budge. Maybe he will budge. I don't know. Miracles can happen out there. Anyway, thanks so much for your RPG horror story, and I really hope something good happens to Carl. Maybe he has some sort of epiphany, maybe changing something about himself. Anyway, regarding to the post, yeah, Carl definitely is a piece of work, and I understand why he wanted to leave the campaign. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.